the Ricci family and the fight against the 7 deadly sins. In Florence, among the ancient stone streets and historic churches, lived the Ricci family. They were a devout Catholic family: Father Marco, Mother Elena, and their 3 children, Luca, 17 years old, Chiara, 15 years old, and Francesco, 12 years old. Marco and Elena believed that faith and morals were the foundation for raising responsible and righteous children. Every evening, after dinner, they sat in the living room to discuss the gospel, addressing daily challenges through the lens of faith. One day, after Sunday Mass, Father Lorenzo, their parish priest, gave a homily on the 7 deadly sins and the danger they represent for the soul. Back home, Marco and Elena decided it would be important to teach their children how to avoid these sins and live according to Christian virtues. So, each week, they devoted themselves to a vice and its opposite virtue, helping their children to recognize the dangers and find ways to overcome them. 1. Pride. Humility is the true greatness. Luca was a brilliant boy, the best in his class. However, he often boasted about his successes, treating his less capable classmates with superiority. One evening, his father said to him, "Do you know who was the greatest of all men?" Luke answered confidently, "A king or a warrior?" Marco smiled. "No, it was Jesus, who, although he was God, made himself a servant of all." To help him cultivate humility, Marco suggested that he volunteer with him at the soup kitchen. At first, Luca was reluctant, but after a few weeks, he saw the joy in the eyes of the people he helped and understood that true greatness lies in serving others, not in feeling superior. 2. Greed. Generosity brings true wealth. Chiara loved collecting designer clothes and accessories, but rarely shared her things with others. One day, her mother told her the parable of the rich fool, who stored up treasures on earth rather than in heaven. Elena proposed a challenge, to donate some of her clothes to those who needed them. Chiara initially protested, but when she saw the gratitude on the faces of the girls to whom she had donated her clothes, she realized that the heart is enriched when you share. 3. Lust. Purity of the heart. At school, Luca and Chiara often heard their friends talk about superficial relationships and inappropriate images. One evening, during a family discussion, Marco said to his children, "Love is not a momentary pleasure, but a sacred gift from God." To help them understand the value of purity, Marco and Elena encouraged them to pray the rosary and to see love as something sacred and respectful. 4. Envy is being happy for others. Francesco, the youngest, got angry every time a classmate received something nice. "Why him and not me?" he often said. One day, his father explained to him that envy destroys happiness and told him the story of Cain and Abel. To help him overcome this vice, she asked him to write down 3 good things about his life every day. Over time, Francesco learned to appreciate what he had and to rejoice in the successes of others. 5. Gola. Balance in food and passions. During Christmas, Francesco ate sweets and chocolate without control until he felt sick. Elena explained to him that gluttony is not just about food, but also about excess in anything. To help him cultivate temperance, she asked him to make small sacrifices, such as giving up a sweet treat a week and offering that sacrifice to God. Francis learned that happiness lies not in excess, but in balance. 6. Anger. Controlling emotions. Chiara had an impulsive character and easily got angry with her brothers. One day, after an argument, her mother told her the story of Saint Francis of Assisi, who responded to insults with love. Elena gave her some advice: when you feel anger rising, say a prayer or take 3 deep breaths before responding. Chiara began to practice it and discovered that calm and forgiveness bring more peace than anger. 7. Sloth. The value of duty and faith. Luca often procrastinated on studying and prayers, preferring video games instead. One day, his father said to him, "You know who wastes the most time? The one who thinks he has too much of it." To help him fight sloth, Marco suggested creating a balanced routine between study, sports, and prayer. Over time, Luca learned that being disciplined brings more satisfaction than always putting off chores. The fruit of the teachings. After months of commitment, the Ricci family noticed a great change in their children. Luca was more humble, Chiara more generous, Francesco more patient. One evening, sitting at the table, Marco and Elena asked, "What have you learned from this journey?" Luke replied, that vices distance us from God, but with prayer and commitment we can overcome them. Chiara added, and that true happiness does not lie in having more, but in being better. Mark and Helen looked at each other with pride. They had taught their children not only to avoid sin, but to live in the grace of God. And so, the values of faith continued in the Ricci family for generations. As the years passed, the children of the Ricci family grew up and faced new challenges. The teachings on the 7 deadly sins had left a mark on their hearts, but life constantly put them to the test. One day, Father Lorenzo proposed a spiritual retreat for families to the parish community. Marco and Elena decided to participate with their children, convinced that it would be an opportunity to strengthen their faith. During the retreat, the priest explained to them that avoiding sin is not enough, you have to fill your heart with virtues and good works. Thus, the Ricci family decided to deepen their spiritual journey even more. Facing the world with the strength of faith. Luca, now 19, was starting university. Here he found himself faced with new temptations, the desire to appear, to be successful at all costs, to put personal interest before Christian values. One day, a professor spoke contemptuously of the Catholic faith. Some of Luca's classmates laughed and provoked him. Do you still believe in these things? Luca remembered the teachings of his family and courageously replied, yes, because faith has made me a better man. And you? Those words struck a chord with some students, and in the following days one of them asked him to talk to them about God. Luca understood that being a witness of faith does not only mean avoiding sin, but also spreading good. Chiara and the temptation of envy. Chiara, now 17, enrolled in an art academy. She had great talent, but often compared herself to others and felt envious of those who seemed better than her. One day, her mother Elena told her, your only competition is with yourself. God gave you talents, use them for good. So Chiara decided to use her art to help others. She began painting to raise funds for the poor and teaching the children of the parish. Her happiness no longer came from comparing herself to others, but from giving of herself. Francis and the fight against laziness. Francesco, the youngest, was starting high school. His main problem was still asdio, the tendency to put off his duties. One evening, his father Marco told him, Jesus fulfilled his mission to the end, even when it was difficult. We cannot waste the time that God has given us. Francis decided to follow the advice and began to organize his time better, less social media, more studying, more prayer. Within a few months, his grades improved and he felt happier and more fulfilled. A new goal, living in virtue. After the spiritual retreat, the Ricci family made a decision. It is not enough to avoid vices, we must live every day with Christian virtues. And so they established a new habit. Every evening, at the table, each person would tell of a good deed they had done during the day. Francis said he helped a friend in trouble. Claire said she encouraged a sad friend. Luke explained that he defended his faith. Marco and Elena looked at each other with pride. Their children were growing up with their hearts turned towards God. And so the Ricci family continued their journey in faith, knowing that Christian life is a daily battle, but with God at your side, every challenge can be won. If you like this video, please subscribe, share, like and comment. Thanks.